I have a second monitor, so that's what I'm looking at. If I'm looking
Okay.
away from it. Yeah. All right. Okay. We just good to go now then?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Sideline. My name is Rishioza,
My name's Asher Hire.
and we have this probably won't is going to be one of our shorter shows, I assume, because not a lot to talk about, although it is some big stuff. We're gonna go through wild card week, and then we'll go through some of the some of the divisional round or all the divisional round. We'll talk about what we think is going to happen because the divisional round actually played out pretty well, considering how bad the games were in wildcard weekend. I'm actually pretty excited these um these wildcard match or these divisional round matchups. So let's just get into wildcard. What was your favorite game? Were you able to watch all of them first off? And what was your favorite one? Because I have a favorite one.
Um, I mean, favorite one, like closest was Rams Lions. Maybe like favorite for like damn, that was like interesting to see, cool to see. I guess like the Eagles losing. I don't like the Eagles. And so I mean it was fun to see a team like the Buccaneers who had no expectations really going into this season. Baker Mayfield completely reviving his career. He had that game against the Broncos where he put up like 50 points as a member of the Rams. I feel like that was only his only game played as a Ram, and then went to Tampa, and people thought he was just like that was kind of it for him, but 337 yards and three touchdowns and your playoff game is just, I mean, he's been just phenomenal this year, really. Um, and so, yeah, it was cool to see Philly lose like that, I guess. They've been playing like a really bad team, a bottom five team to close out the season. And they played like one, on Monday as well. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah.
that was bad. That Philly game was bad. I anticipated it being a lot closer because both teams look, aren't like crazy good. But I mean, then we both picked Tampa to win because of just how bad Philly was playing going into it. They had that game against the Giants to end the season. I mean, their end of the season, right? They're tied with Dallas in the NFC East, and I'm pretty sure they had the lead in the NFC East, um, going in the final 3 weeks. And
Hmm.
Dallas' schedule was way harder, and Philly's schedule was the Giants, and then the Cardinals, and then the Giants again. And they went 1-2 in that stretch, and they lost a, at home against the Cardinals in a game where they were up for majority of it, and by a large part because their defense was just so bad. I'm pretty sure they scored 30 plus that game. I know that, but their defense was so bad that game that it just they had no shot, and that was the story of their season. Even in this game, giving up. I mean, they had a safety, so giving up 30 points to a Tampa Bay offense that really isn't that good, um, is pretty impressively bad, uh, to say the least. Matt Patricia specialty, I would say, right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like kind of in the beginning of the season when they started out, 11-1 or whatever that was, or like 10-1 maybe. Um, like that they were still dominant, like, but it felt like, it was different. It wasn't as good as last year, even though they were winning all these games. Um, and you could just like tell that something was starting to shift. It felt like maybe it was just more like talent that was winning those games early on in the season and just purely like I mean they have the best roster probably in the NFL just up
Yeah,
and down defensively, offensively, both, the line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball there. And so it felt like, in the beginning of the season it was more talent, and then when the team started to figure out what they were going to do on offense, what they're doing on defense, in the back half of the season, that's just when it, goes to show how important those coordinators were last year compared to the ones this year. Brian Johnson and Matt Patricia and Sean Desai just had a complete, just shit show the entire season
yeah,
coaching their
that's the
team.
only way to put it. Yeah,
Um, and now Brian Johnson, I guess, is interviewing for the Falcons head coaching job, which is interesting. He's probably not going to get it. That's going to go to Bill Belichick. But um, Yeah, man. I mean, the coordinators, I think, were just they really stood out to me as just not being that good. And then I don't think, Jalen Hurts is good enough really to overcome the deficiencies of a bad offensive coordinator. He's in the MVP conversation, but is he really a top five quarterback? Probably not. Um, and he's probably, around 10 or something like that in my eyes. And, clearly showed that his arm, I guess, isn't good enough to carry that team on plays that break down and don't look good and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you hit it right. I think losing the coordinators was huge. Like those first 11 games when they were winning, yeah, they like you said, they're 10-1, but it just felt so hard for them to get to that point. Like they were winning, but I mean just barely. Like here, let's go through their scores. Week 1 against the Patriots, they win by 5. We saw how bad the Patriots are. They ended up
See, that
losing
already
by 10.
like kind of I remember that game and it was like, damn, they don't seem as but then it was like week one, so it's like you can't really take anything
Yeah, you can't
out of
take
that.
too
But
much from
looking
them.
back on hindsight, maybe you can take something out of that.
Like Minnesota, they win by 4 at home against, or sorry, they win by 6 at home. But once again, not a great Minnesota team. I mean, they're not they weren't bad, but they're not great. They beat Tampa on the road 25-11. That was their first good defensive performance. Uh then they had to go to overtime against Washington. Washington scored 31 points this game. The defense gave up 365 yards and 260 uh in the air. Like it was just bad. They beat the Rams by 9. This is when the Rams were still kind of scuffling through their season. They lose to the Jets with Zach Wilson. You beat Miami, which is fine. Once again, barely beat Washington. They only won by 7, and once again allowed 31 points to them. And this one was even worse. Allowed more total yards. Sam Howell threw for almost 400 in this game. Like that's not good. They beat Dallas, which is a good win. Then it's the bye. Then it's Kansas City. Then you needed overtime to beat Buffalo, and then everything just fell apart. That San Francisco game, everything just fell apart after that. And
Yeah.
the defense was it was so bad. Like 31st in yards, 30 like teams would just throw all over their secondary. 31st in yards, 31st in touchdowns, just 25th in interceptions, and like the rushing defense was all right, but they still gave up 4.3 yards per attempt, which isn't good. Like they were just I mean, they definitely played so much better to start the season, but you could tell that there were signs, specifically those Washington games, and New England game, the Jets
That
game.
and the one drive that stuck out to me as being like, okay, this team can't really do it is the final drive at Seattle when Drew Lock and the Seahawks had to go like 95 yards in, 2 minutes, maybe even less. I can't remember the time, but it was around like 2 minutes they had to go 95 yards. And they went down there and did it. And that just goes to show like a Super Bowl defense, I mean, is not going to let that happen.
Yeah,
um,
Drew
and
Lock 300 yards, or excuse me, 200 yards, no turnovers as well. Like you can't. Drew Lock is like that was the thing. It's turnovers, and if your defense can't force that, it was like a start that he didn't know was happening until like half an hour before game time. What are you gonna do?
yep. And then that started, the downward spiral. They could have won that game, but that all of a sudden turned into a loss, and that made them, 1-4 in their last 5 games, 1-5 in their last. I'm sorry, 1-6 in their last 7 games. But
Yeah, not great. And the one win
yeah,
was
that
a
Seahawks
they
won.
squeaked it out, squeaked it
Yeah,
out.
against the
There's
Giants. Yeah.
some different news. Raiders are gonna hire Antonio Pierce as head coach. Just came out. Five and
Okay.
four in their final 9, 3-1 in division, including a win at Kansas City that they had with Antonio Pierce. So honestly, like I like it. I think that they should have hired Rich Bisaccia when John Gruden got fired, and then Bisaccia took him to the playoffs after that. Should have just done that. Instead, they lost him and hired McDaniels because the Raiders, and they make decisions like that, and that's why they're the Raiders. But I like it. ASU legend and
Yeah.
Antonio Pierce. But yeah, I mean, that's okay. I think that's fine.
Yeah,
I
it's
It's
definitely like
better
what
than
the
McDaniels.
locker. It's definitely what the players in the locker room wanted.
Yeah,
Um, so there you
that
go.
that's something that's the biggest thing. Like McDaniels clearly never had a hold on the locker room. Like he never has been able to do that. Even in Denver, he, skimped out of Indianapolis. He signed the contract and was like, never mind, and
Hmm.
just left. So I'm fine. That's I at least they have someone good. Like,
Yeah.
because I think that they can be good. Like they're not. I don't think they're a bad team. But yeah, Philly not good. They got a lot to work around. Do you think they fire Sirianni? I think it was reported that they don't. Or do you think they should fire Sirianni?
No, I don't think that they should. I don't think they will. And I don't think they should. I just think like I mean it is tough like going from Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon who, showed that they're gonna be head coaches for a very long time. Um, and are that caliber of being one of the top head coaches in the NFL, and they were on, your staff as coordinators, and then, from that into the downgrade of the coordinators you have there is probably tough uh as a head coach. Um, so I mean, I think it's like a little too early to fire him, but obviously if they like, you know, don't do well next year, he's going to be on the hot seat for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
They definitely got to change the coordinators. Brian Johnson and Matt Patricia won't do it. I think that's what the reports are that
yeah.
they're gonna go look. They're gonna go looking. Yeah, I mean, even like just look on their Pro Football Reference, like you can just tell like this is not a crazy good team. And their strength of schedule wasn't even that hard either. Like it's just a tough season overall. But yeah,
Mhm.
Tampa Bay advances. Yeah, my favorite game, at least my like game to look at is like, whoa, what? It was the Green Bay beating
Yeah,
Dallas because
for sure.
I legitimately thought Dallas was a Super Bowl contender. Like I thought if they win, I thought they could get past Detroit. I thought that that was possible, and then you get them in likely in San Francisco uh, for the NFC Championship game, and we know how most of the time it happens when you're playing in San Francisco. But I thought that this Cowboys team, their defense has been really really good. The offense has always been really solid, and I thought Dak and CeeDee Lamb had been cooking over the end of the season. I thought they had a good rhythm. They also didn't have a great end of the season like Philly, but it wasn't like they were losing games to bad teams or in bad ways. It was just that they were losing the team good teams on the road in close games. And I think that that's like they were in a good rhythm going in the playoffs. You were able to win your division. You have a home game. You have a 2 seed. Like this is, I thought it was if there was going to be a year of the last few seasons where they made a run, I thought it was going to be this season. But man, Jordan Love, Aaron Jones, Romeo Dobbs, that those guys are good. I mean, we
Sheesh,
were talking
man.
about it in the bureau. Like this Packers team they're going to be good for a while because this offense is so young, and it starts with Love. He looked incredible. Like it doesn't look like there was a drop off from Rodgers from either of the last 2 seasons, which is crazy.
These Packer fans, man, there are some lucky people. Like three quarterbacks is all they've had to deal with since 1990.
Yeah,
Um, and then here we are. How many quarterbacks is this in the past since the Super Bowl?
Denver.
Considering next year is going to be a different one, probably too. I can't even count.
Mm,
It's probably more than I could count on my hands. Like
I mean, let's try and do it. We got Simeon, Lynch, Osweiler again.
Keenum,
um, yeah, Keenum,
Brandon Allen,
Flacco, Locke, Brandon Allen,
Bridgewater,
Kendall Hinton,
Bridgewater,
Bridgewater,
um,
Russ, Brett
Stidham.
Rippon, Stidham. Was that 17?
That's 17 you counted?
12 or 12, 12. Sorry,
Okay,
12.
okay. I was like, yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
12. That's about two
Uh,
every year, but Packers fans, they just have three studs and they all throw the exact same and they're just
yeah,
amazing.
it's
Um,
ridiculous.
yeah, speaking
They
of
really
coaches
try.
that I think do need to be fired, Dallas, Mike McCarthy, I think does need to go. I mean, I don't understand what the whole appeal for Mike McCarthy is. Like, how many playoff failures do you have to see with Aaron Rodgers, with an incredibly talented Cowboys team these past couple years? How many failures do you have to see from him,
Yeah.
like, to let him go? Because it's been way too many. He can't fire up his team somehow. Like, the defense just there were wide open people. I mean, geez, this was a terrible I mean, Dan Quinn is looking to get a head coaching job next year. This is a terrible
Oh yeah,
interview or whatever. I mean, it's not an interview, but like a terrible, I don't know, display of his defense, um, allowing 48 to a young Packers team. But yeah, I don't. They just don't seem to get up for him, and Dak Prescott's just been terrible in the playoffs. Um, 400 yards is crazy. It does not deserve that. It felt like a 100 yard, like three interception game, but he threw for
yeah,
400,
yeah.
60 pass attempts. Um, so yeah, I think Mike McCarthy needs to go. Um, man, the Cowboys just seem to be just stuck in the cycle of like it feels like we're good, but like, are we really? Is Dak really good enough to actually do this? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, man, it just feels like it's like the equivalent of the Broncos, I guess, just always being stuck with like picks like 12 through 17. Like we're always just in that like middle phase, but the Cowboys are obviously better, but they're not like they're in that kind of phase, but like
yeah,
in the playoffs. They're not like,
yeah.
good
It's
enough to win a
it's
Super
it's
Bowl.
bad.
Yeah.
I would. I mean, if I'm this is the issue. I think until Jerry Jones, he can still be the owner, but he can't be in control of the team. He just can't. Like that has been the case since Jimmy Johnson left. They won a Super Bowl after. I forgot the coach who won it after Jimmy Johnson left. But since then, Jerry Jones has remained in control, and they haven't gotten close. Haven't made the conference championships. They hadn't won a playoff game in forever until a few years ago. Like this is this is an organization that just needs a full reset, I think, especially after a season like this when you're anticipating a run, you're anticipating something good happening, but it doesn't. Like it crashes like this. I mean, the Dallas giving up 415 total yards, and it probably should have been a lot more considering how quickly they got up. And one of the touchdowns they gave up was an interception. It was a pick six. So I mean, that's not on them, but that's another issue that they had. 272 pass yards. They didn't force a single turnover. 6 of 10 on third downs. They let them get a fourth down conversion. 143 yards on the ground. I mean, come on, like that's with three touchdowns. Like that's ridiculous. Jordan Love, 16 of 21, 272 yards and three touchdowns. Like that's as almost a perfect game. He's 157 passer rating. Like that cannot happen at home against a team that, for the most part, is making their playoff debut. In a team that should have been in a rebuild year, giving
Hmm.
that up, like you can't do that. That is like as unacceptable of a performance as you can have. So I think Jerry Jones, he can still be the owner of the team, but he can't have control over who's on the field and who's on the coaching staff. That can't keep
Yeah.
happening. I think you got to hire a real GM. You got to get another head coach. And honestly, I think everyone like the team is good enough to where you don't have to rebuild, but it should there should be no one except Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb should be safe. Everybody else can get traded, I think, because
We'll see
like
about
those are
Diggs.
the only two
Maybe
guys you can build.
Diggs like belongs on that
Diggs
list.
as well, but yeah, I mean he wasn't playing this season,
Yeah.
but like I think yeah, Diggs as well. Like those are probably the only three. You have two cornerstones you can build on the defense. Offensively, in terms of like cornerstones, I don't know if you have one outside of Lamb. Now, after looking at this, like Dak probably isn't that guy. I thought Tony Pollard was going to take a step up
Man,
without
what a
Zeke taking the touches,
disappointment he
but
was the entire
yeah,
season. And like, God, he just wasn't that good, really. And then
no, he
like their
wasn't.
backup running back, they don't have like a good combo there. Like Rico Dowdle is not,
No,
anything really special either. It's not like he's a big bruiser, like Packers, where it's like AJ Dillon's not that good, but at least he's a bruiser, and
yeah,
a
you got a
counterpart
change of pace in
to
there.
Aaron Jones. Yeah.
Yeah,
Both Pollard and
they
Dowdle are like the same people.
yeah, and that's what Zeke was. I mean, I thought Zeke was holding Tony Pollard back, and I thought he was, not nearly as good as he used to be, which is true, but he really was an important piece of this because Tony Pollard, 15 carries for 56 yards, and I know they couldn't do a ton on the ground, because they were down the entire game, but you can't.
I mean, I can't
Yeah,
remember like a single explosive play by Pollard this year where it's like,
yeah,
oh, there goes Pollard running down the sideline for like 40 yards and a touchdown. That like never happened. Um, and so I mean, I don't
yeah,
know if it's just too much of a workload, like with no Zeke, getting the bulk of the carries for him. Um, I don't know. The whole running back dilemma is weird.
yeah. So that they got a lot of reworking to do. They definitely got to go get another guy in the backfield. Got to. I think you can win with Dak, but you gotta. I think have to give him a little less freedom. It has to be a much more structured system around him. Um, he has a lot on his shoulders in terms of going and being able to make plays. And I don't think he's good enough to do that. So got to structure it around him a little more. Structure it around the running game more as well, because you need to be able to do that. 60 pass attempts is ridiculous. I know that they had to throw for like 90% of the game, but still 60 pass attempts is ridiculous. And that includes his 4 sacks, and that also includes his 6 rushing attempts. So he dropped back 70 times.
Yeah.
70 times you drop back. That's ridiculous. You can't do that. That's putting him in way, way, way too much danger for the guy who you have so much money tied into, you know think of as your franchise guy. But yeah, Dallas got a lot to do, and that Green Bay, no matter what happens from now, the fact that made the playoffs this season was a win,
Oh my
and no
God.
matter
And
what
then,
happens from now is just exceeding every expectation that they had
yeah,
for themselves.
yeah. Winning a playoff game with this team with this quarterback who you didn't know like really anything about like going into this year if he was going to be a stud or not, and then like that young wide receiver group. I mean, anything as you said, like a playoff win. Are you kidding me? That's such a successful
Yeah,
season. Um, so yeah, congrats to them. And they're a fun team. Like I like that team a lot. So
yeah, they're
hopefully they
very
beat the
very fun
Niners.
team.
Yeah.
Matt Lafleur is a very likable head coach. He seems to really know how to get his players in good positions. He knows how to connect with his players as well in the locker room. They all seem to love him. Um, they're all rallying behind Jordan Love, which is good to see. It's good to see him have like a good season as well. I mean, this is a contract year for him, and it's his only season that he's ever been as a starter, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And the performance he had, especially in the last 2 months, huge for him. Um, well, I guess we'll touch on the other ones. I mean, like we'll get to Rams Lions last, because that was the actually only good game. But Bill Steelers closer than I thought. Honestly, props to Pittsburgh for even keeping that one close, but for as long as they did. Um, I know the weather conditions weren't great, but Buffalo, their defense looked good. Offense, once again, I feel like this is the issue that they have every single season in the playoffs. They look good to start, and then it just they can't keep it going. They can't play a full 60. Um, so we'll see. But I honestly, in years past, that Buffalo team doesn't score a touchdown on their last drive to put the game out of reach. They definitely falter and do something stupid. Even earlier in the season, they probably falter and do something stupid. So them getting
Yeah.
that touchdown is good. They're hosting Kansas City, which is scary, but
Finally, this is Mahomes' first away playoff game.
it's crazy. It's insane. Mahomes in the playoffs, like he's another beast, but also yeah, having was it 15 games at home, like that's pretty nuts. That's it's a very fortunate start to your playoff career. I mean, no one starts that many games in a row at home. No one does. Like he's had 2 different runs where the 1 seed lost and went one and done, and he ended up with the home game in the conference championship because of something he didn't even do, which is and that type of luck is crazy to happen 2 years in a row. Yeah, first home game, first road game for him. We'll see
Yeah.
how that plays out. I'm excited to see that. It's gonna be another the brick cold game in Buffalo. I heard that they're looking for more shoveler people, so we'll have another anchor audition. Probably get
Oh
to
yeah.
say some
There you
more
go.
about some Buffalo shovelers.
That's funny.
But yeah, that Buffalo game, we'll see what happens. We'll talk about that one later. Miami, Kansas City. I gonna be honest, I watched like 5 minutes of this game because I knew it was gonna not gonna be close. Uh, would you do? Would you pay Tua if you're Miami? I'll ask you that. Like, would you? Because he's up for a contract. The other guys in his class, Burrow's gotten his money, Hurts has gotten his money, Herbert's gotten his money. Are you gonna give
Uh,
Tua a contract extension?
it's just so tough. Tua is such like a polarizing player where it's like, yeah, oh my God. I don't know. I'm looking at this article right now. I just looked up Tua. It's like dolphinstalk.com. Why Tua deserves major contract extension. I'm like, I can't go that far where it's like he completely deserves a major contract extension after, throwing like he's, I don't know, like 3 years old in the cold. Like that's what it looks like when the ball comes out of his hand. It's like a little kid throwing. Like that's how much power he has on the ball. So I mean, man, I guess like just because like I mean finding quarterbacks is so hard that like if you do feel like you
Yeah,
have one and they had a successful season and he's in the MVP conversation, like obviously he can run that offense well. Um,
yeah,
but like it is like crazy in the NFL. Like the playoffs is only one game. Like Dak Prescott had this phenomenal year. 35 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, whatever, 4,500 yards or something. And then, but you just like know, like in the playoffs, it's a whole different animal, and he just, is just not the same in the playoffs. Um,
yeah,
and that's when you can really tell who's a real quarterback. I mean, like who's a phenomenal quarterback and who's not. And like I have no trust in Tua in the playoffs. So,
yeah,
and that's really all like that matters, right? Is like the regular season is fun to watch and all, but like if you just lose in the first round of the playoffs, I mean, like who cares?
yeah. Like,
So
yeah, I mean, you said it. Like, Tua has had a good season. Like this season, completed 70% of his passes, 11-6. They're in the hunt for the division for the entire year. 4,600 passing yards, 29 touchdowns. That's a good season. That's a season the Broncos quarterback hasn't had since 2014. Like that's a season that you will 100% take. It's just in the big games, you don't know what you're gonna get. You
mhm.
have no idea what you're gonna get. Like I look at this, their first loss at Buffalo in Week 4. He had 282 yards and a touchdown, but he did have an interception. He took 4 sacks, and he's not a non-mobile quarterback, but he gives you nothing with his legs. Like he doesn't give you anything with his legs, which is an issue because he
Yeah.
can't
I
escape
mean, like
that much pressure.
he doesn't really give you anything in the pot. It's not even like he's really that good at like stepping up
Yeah,
and like shrugging off, a one arm tackle. Like you put anything on him and he's gonna fall down.
yeah. And this game at Philadelphia, their second loss, 216 yards and a touchdown. Once again, interception. Only his longest pass that game was only 29 yards, just 6.8 yards per attempt. You look at all these games where they're not scoring a lot of points, it's because their passing game stinks. Like their passing game can't get anything going. It's under 7 yards per pass on all these losses. At Kansas City in November, he just had 193 yards and a touchdown. No interceptions, but 5.7 yards per attempt. Like that can't happen with 3 sacks as well. This game at Tennessee or the against Tennessee, this was a bad game. 240 yards, no touchdowns. 7.3 yards because they did score. You know, they scored 27 points, but it wasn't good. He took 5 sacks as well. Like, and
I just
then
like
his
I don't know.
longest
I
pass
also
is
think
from
I think like some blame could be put on McDaniel. Like you are like kind of throwing him, you're just like leaving him out there to just rot in like the ice cold and
yeah,
you're having him throw 40 passes in a game that like was close throughout. I mean, it wasn't really close, but it was like, doable
it was in
to
reach. It
to
was in
come
reach.
back. And, Mostert 8 carries, a Chan 6 carry or a Chan 6 carries, and Tua 39 passing attempts. So like, in the freezing cold, where obviously he's like never felt that type of weather in his life while playing football at Alabama or in Miami. Um, so I don't know. Like I just don't know why they didn't stick with the run more throughout this season, especially going against a Chiefs defense that I mean McDuffie made the all-pro team, I guess. Whatever. I think Snead is probably better anyways, but
Yeah,
like they have insane corners on their team. Um So I mean that's tough for Tua, but obviously we can just see like by the way he throws it and just you just like feel like he just doesn't have really a command of like just
Yeah.
like third and nine and then just fires a bullet down the middle. Like I just can't ever see that really happening like Mahomes or Josh Allen. So I don't know. I guess you do give him a contract extension, I guess, because it's just
Yeah.
like, can you find anybody better than him? Yeah, but it'll be hard. Um,
Mhm. And considering the capital that they've traded to get this team, that they've given up first round picks, all the picks that they got essentially in the trade that they made with the Niners back in 21 for that third overall pick, like they traded all that capital away to build this team that they have now. So they don't have a ton to go get a new quarterback. There's not even really quarterbacks on the market that they can go get
I know. Is it like
either.
Justin Fields? Like Justin Fields would be cool for them, I guess, with the all the speed, but like is he perfect for
He's not.
McDaniel's offense? I don't
He's
think
also
so.
not
So
better than Tua.
let's say,
Like he's not nearly
yeah.
as accurate. He's not nearly a better legitimate passer. Like the offense, the rush offense would be insane considering how good it was this year with Fields
If they
out there.
actually
But
run the ball, yeah.
yeah, as a passer, their offense, it would sink. It would stink when you have to get in big moments and throw the ball. It would suck. Like he's the only other guy who I think could be out there. Like unless you go get another low cost guy who isn't gonna do much though, like another like Andy Dalton or like Jameis Winston, guys who are starter caliber players, but they're not like great. They're not nearly as good as Tua is. So like you
I
said,
guess.
quarterbacks
I
are
don't
really
know,
hard
but
to find.
honestly, like, man, this I don't know, dude. I like Andy Dalton. I feel like I would be more confident in in the playoffs than Tua. Like with that offense, like everything around him, I'm just saying, like Andy Dalton in that system, at least he can throw like outside the numbers with pace and like, you know, can throw it down the middle too. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I don't know. I really like am not high on Tua at all, but
It's like
I don't know.
he doesn't have like it's not like he doesn't have arm strength in terms of he can't get the ball far, but it's more he can't throw it hard. And
Yeah,
that's like a different type of arm strength. Like
yeah,
Josh Allen, yeah, he can throw the ball 70 yards down the field, but he can also throw it 15 yards down the field, but in a very tight window because he has incredible arm strength with his accuracy. Tua has accuracy. He can throw it far. He just can't throw it fast. He can't fit it in the tighter windows when you need him to. So, well, yeah, I mean, like you said, like it's very hard to find a quarterback. As I was watching the Broncos, we just listed 12 of them, and not a single one of them worked out.
yeah,
So it's hard to get one. Tua, 4,600 yards and almost 30 touchdowns. Like that's a good season. I would, and he's a second year head coach as well. Like that has to play into it. He's still young. He's not, you know, there's still a lot of room for development for him. So I wouldn't give him if he's asking for like close to 200 million. No way. At that point, go get someone else and trade him and get what you can for him at that point. But if he's asking for like 150 for like 3 or 4 years, I'd be like, yeah, depending on how much guaranteed money it is, I would do that because, like you said, it's so hard to find a a quarterback, and there's not a lot of people out there that they could get who would even come close to replicating his production. Yeah, big moments it's hard, but just giving you that production in general, you'll take it, and you'll
yeah.
be a good team, and you'll take being a good team. Houston, Cleveland. I this game was a shock. First game of the week, and I had zero faith that it was going to be this much of a blowout. Thought it'd be much closer. Cleveland's defense completely just crapped the bed. I know they're injured, and I know the entire team is like half the team is on IR at this point. I just expected it to be a little bit closer than this.
Mm,
Um,
yeah,
but hey, we got Houston, Baltimore next week, and that's going to be a really, really fun game. I'm excited. I'm super excited for
yeah, I am too. Yeah, this game was like weird because I did think that Cleveland had a Super Bowl level defense. I mean, they were playing, throughout most of the regular season like one of the best defenses that we've seen in, this past decade, really. Um, And then all of a sudden, like I just had way more faith, I guess, in their secondary. But Greg Newsome was getting torched the entire game. It was insane. It was like every big play was like Greg Newsome's fault, except for the big Brevin touchdown, Brevin Jordan touchdown, where he ran. But um, yeah, it's kind of like Greg Newsome. He's like a huge like celebrator. It's funny. Like he'll just like strap all this type of stuff, and then he just gets torched. It's funny. But yeah, I mean CJ Stroud, him and Jordan Love put up like the same exact stat lines, and both of them are just so fun to watch. I love how they push the ball down the field, um, in an era of quarterbacks not doing that.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, man, the Texans, they're tough because their defense flies around. They got so much speed on their defense, especially the linebackers. Christian Harris had that pick six. I mean, he's amazing. And then the rest, their linebackers, of course, Will Anderson as well. Um, but even like guys like Henry Toe has speed. Uh,
yeah.
Kareem Jackson, I forgot he's there, but he is there now. And then Jonathan Grenard coming off the edge is also good. Like obviously with the guy like D'Amico Ryan's leading that defense. This team, man, this team is good. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Um,
And this is
like
it's
this
gonna
is
be a
their
tough game against
I
Baltimore.
know, I know. This is like kind of their if they beat this Ravens team, they obviously can go to the Super Bowl. Obviously. I mean, and they're gonna be in the AFC
Yeah.
championship, but like yeah, they're I think a Super Bowl. They can win the Super Bowl, I think. And
Yeah,
definitely can
I
beat.
did too. I did too. Like if they play like this, their defense plays like this, they can do it. They're forcing turnovers. I mean, we talked about it. Talked about Cleveland last time when we were talking about this game. That turnover issue was it, that is the thing that is their thing. They just turn the ball over more than any team in the NFL this season, and their defense has been so good that it has largely like diminished that, and it hasn't been as much of an issue in a regular season setting as it normally would be with normal teams without this good of a defense. But um, the offense couldn't do anything, turned it over twice, and it was two pick sixes, which are huge. I mean, you take those out, and yeah, it's still not a great score. It's 14-31 instead of 14-45, but that's much more doable than 14-45 with those two interceptions. The game completely changed with those picks. But I mean, once again, kind of like Green Bay. I mean, Cleveland's going to be happy the fact they just made a playoff game this season with how badly injured they were, with how bad Deshaun Watson looked when he actually was healthy. It's nice to have them. It's good for them to just have made the playoffs and show like, hey, this team when healthy is a Super Bowl contender, which I do believe. I believe that if they are healthy, there's a Super Bowl contender who would no matter who is at quarterback because the talent around them and the defense is gonna be fine. But yeah, this Texans team is dangerous. Last game of the wild card weekend, Detroit, Los Angeles. I was so convinced Los Angeles was gonna win. I thought the script was in. I was like, Stafford returning to LA, or returning to Detroit, their first home playoff game in forever, their first time, their chance to win a playoff game in the first time in 32 years. Stafford's gonna do it, and it didn't happen. I'm impressed with the poise that this Rams defense had down the stretch. Very very impressed with the way that they handled themselves. Um, it sets up a really really interesting matchup against Tampa because Tampa does a lot of things that Detroit is very weak at. Detroit does a lot of things that Tampa is very weak at. So we'll see how it works out. But yeah, I mean this was my favorite game, like in terms of just watching it of the week.
Oh yeah, for sure. This game was phenomenal. Puka Nacua like really coming out as just I mean just a beast. Like he's good after the catch. He catches everything. He's like faster than I thought. Um yeah, and then the Lions side, obviously, like I feel good for them and their fans. I watched that Barry Sanders. There's like a Barry Sanders like thing on Amazon Prime. It's kind of cool. He's like the Jokic of the NFL. Like he hated all the awards and stuff. Absolutely hated them. Like didn't even want to win the Heisman. Like Jokic didn't really want to win the MVP. Um, so I mean that was cool to see. And then like the Lions fans and stuff. Um, so I mean they're. It would be cool if they win it all, and I think that they definitely can. Because their defense is great. I honestly I couldn't watch um a lot of this game, which kind of made me mad because of course it's like the one good game that I didn't watch is like the one
Yeah.
actual good game. Um, so I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. What did you think of the game? I know there's a lot of controversy at the end with the flag and stuff, the pass
I mean,
interference.
I didn't
But
think it was like looking back on that play, like, yeah, it's probably a foul. But honestly, I didn't think it was that. Like in real time, it didn't look that bad. Puka didn't have that crazy of a reaction. Like he wasn't trying to be like, hey, it's a foul, like I'll call it, like going all berserk about it. Um, I mean the sideline was because sideline always is gonna do that, but I didn't think it was that bad. There's a lot of contact like that happens in football all the time, in especially like jump ball situations like that. Uh, if they threw the flag, it wouldn't have been unwarranted, but I'm good with them holding back on something like that because I think over the course of the entire game, it wasn't. It was like it was a physical game. They're letting them hit each other. Um, yeah, I really didn't think that anything crazy officiating wise was happening. But yeah, like you said, this defense is good. Getting CJ Gardner Johnson back is huge. He's a big part of this secondary. He can play down low. He can play up high. He's good. Um, that helps them a ton. It's going to help them a ton against Tampa. Brian Branch has been incredible. He should get some votes for Defensive Rookie of the Year because he's been insane. Jack Campbell as well. A lot of people, including myself, criticized the pick at the time, but he looks. I mean, the fact that they were able to get Brian Branch in general and Jack Campbell is great drafting by them. This is a good team. This is a really good team. I'm excited to see how it looks. When do they play? Sunday. Excited to see how they look Sunday because this is gonna be a fun game. Um, I'm just like happy that it was a good game because I wanted this to be a good game so bad. Having Goff have his like revenge game, having Stafford still ball out. I mean, 367 yards and two touchdowns, no turnovers for him was
yeah.
huge.
Oh my God, some of the
Yeah, I
throws
mean,
he makes are just crazy. Like
it,
there's one like he had this sidearm throw, it was probably like 20 yards down the field on the sideline. Oh my God. I'm like, how does that even work? I just don't get
he's
it.
in, he's insane. His arm strength and arm angles. I mean, it's sad that it took him just getting to LA for people to really figure it out, but he's legit. Um, it would have been cool to see them have a run where they win a couple games and potentially make a Super Bowl run.
Dude,
But
I'm still
honestly,
God,
I'm okay with it.
he
But
should be a Bronco, bro. He really should.
he didn't want to play in the cold, man. I'm
Uh,
100% convinced that that's what it was. He just did not want to play in the cold because Denver was interested in him, but because Detroit wanted to do right by him, they wanted him to go where he wanted. LA had the dome. They had, uh, albeit they had a much better team overall. But yeah, I mean, if Denver was in like San Antonio or something, he would be in Denver.
I feel like Sean Payton and Matt Stafford would just be a
Oh,
phenomenal duo.
oh, it'd be ridiculous. It'd be ridiculous. This is why I want Denver. I mean, we'll get into draft stuff later in the year, I'm sure. But like, this is why I want Denver to draft a quarterback because I want to see Sean Payton develop some guy, especially in a quarterback heavy draft like this. I want to see him develop somebody so we can
Hmm.
see a guy like Matthew Stafford just come up in the ranks of Denver. But just won't happen. I will say this Rams offense. Puka Nacua, 9 catches, 181 yards, insane game. But Cooper Cup, 5 catches, 27 yards. That was it for him. I know he was in and out of the lineup for injuries. He was injured in this game too. But 27 yards for Cooper Cup, that's interesting. Demarcus
Yeah.
Robinson had more yards. He was the out of the guys who had more than like 2 catches, he had the least amount of receiving yards, which is
Yeah, it
crazy.
is weird. He kind of got like phased out of the offense towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Um, which is weird. Obviously with the emergence of Nakua, but like his last, regular season game, he had 4 catches for 27 yards and then 6 for 52 before that. And there are a couple games in there where he had just 39 yards, 18 yards. Um, so it's weird, but I guess like just it's just the way that McVay's offense, I guess, runs. Um, where like they just, have one main kind of receiver and then the other guys are just there when they're open, I guess. But um, yeah, it is weird.
Yeah, definitely uh, an odd circumstances for Cup. But once again, I feel like them and Green Bay are in a similar situation. The Rams were kind of in a retooling, rebuilding year, and they caught lightning in a bottle, made a run. So it's unfortunate they had to go against Detroit because I think against a lot of other teams. Like if they played Dallas, they probably would have won as well. I think they played Tampa, they probably win. But Detroit, with all the emotion going into that game, in hindsight, it's probably hard to see them losing that. But all right, let's go into some predictions. I love how we said this might have been a shorter episode, and it's still gonna be long as hell. Um, but here we go into this divisional matchup. We'll start off with the first game tomorrow, 2:30, Houston Baltimore. I am so excited for this game. This is gonna be such a fun game.
It better
Baltimore,
be,
they got to
hopefully.
get over the hump. They have to get over the hump. They have the one seed. They're gonna have the MVP. Lamar Jackson is gonna win it. Their defense is playing well. I don't think they'll have Mark Andrews back for this
Yeah,
game,
they won't. They
but
won't.
like if they win, he'll probably be back for the next game, which is huge. I want Baltimore to win so bad, but just looking at this Houston team, looking at how good CJ Stroud has played, doesn't matter the circumstance, doesn't matter the team, doesn't matter who he has on the side. Because like looking at into this season, I was looking at Houston's offense. I'm like, it doesn't look that good. Like, there's not a lot of guys out there. Like Nico Collins is okay. Like he had a good second year, but he wasn't. I didn't think he'd have this season that he's having now, and the performances that he's having now. Noah Brown, I was like, that's a good signing. It's a good vet guy to have there, but I didn't think he was gonna have a good season. I thought Dalton Schultz was gonna be the main guy because he's a safety blanket for a rookie quarterback with not a lot of weapons. I was like, oh, he's good. But I mean, just out of nowhere, I mean, Devin Singletary overtook Damian Pierce in the backfield like completely. He's been really, really good. The defense has been really, really good. This is an exciting team, and I honestly am leaning towards picking them in an upset over Baltimore because of how good that they've been playing over the stretch of
Yeah.
games with Stroud.
Yeah, no, I'm too really. Because I think, man, I don't know. I feel like you can kind of throw against um this Ravens team. Obviously, they bring a lot of pressure. Um, but like I think, there's holes that you can kind of pick apart in their secondary. I feel like, the Rams game, I remember that went into overtime. It was like big play, big play, big play, by Stafford and the Rams. Um, man, this one's tough. This one, oh my God, I don't know. I don't know. It's like a veteran team, grizzled team against this young up and coming team. Um, That looks fun. My God, I wish the Texans had Tank Dell so bad too.
Oh my
Um,
God, this would have I would have 100% if they had Tank Dell, I would take them in a heartbeat because
I
that
think,
offense against his defense would have been something to watch.
yeah, Noah Brown is out, right? Yeah, he is out. Um,
Yeah.
they really like the Ravens should win this game, really. Um, but the Texans putting up 45 against the Browns just, oh my gosh, just has me thinking so hard. Um,
Especially after the performance that the Browns put on the Texans in the regular season. I know Stroud wasn't playing in that game, but like the Browns whooped Houston in Houston. So like having that and then coming to this, it's like that is such a quick turnaround to have in that sort of a time, especially with the stakes of being in the playoffs for the first time with the rookie head coach and the rookie quarterback. That's just, I mean, whew,
you know what? I'm going
exciting.
Texans. I'm going
That's what I'm
Texans.
saying. Like, I'm gonna go Texans. Like,
I
like
think
Ravens.
I think their defense has the speed to keep up with the Ravens offense and has the speed to limit Lamar's legs, like in the linebacker um core as well.
Mhm.
Um, so I honestly think this Texans defense be a lot better than it has been throughout the season as these younger guys are maturing. Um,
Yeah.
so
And
I'm
I'm
gonna just
looking at
ride
this.
I'm gonna ride this young team and I'm pick the Texans.
I think I'm gonna go the same way. And I'm looking at this injury report for Baltimore. Marlon Humphrey not playing. It looks like he's
Hmm.
out. At least
Really?
this is the injury report. It was updated yesterday. I'm not sure what it is today. Um, but it says practice status is DNP. His status is out with a calf.
Oh,
And I think it's accurate because it says Mark Andrews is questionable with an ankle on this as well. And he is out, but he's listed as questionable on the injury report. So if he's out on a Thursday, he's probably not playing. Like that.
yeah, he's not playing. They already like if you just look up Mark Andrews, it says he's not playing.
No, no, no. Marlon Humphrey. I know
Oh,
Andrews is
yeah, yeah.
Marlon Humphrey. Like if you're listed out on a Thursday for a Saturday game, you're probably not playing,
Hmm.
which is huge. And even then, he's not going to be 100%. So this Texans offense has a chance to just air it out like crazy. So I'm also going to go Houston. I'm predicting 28-24.
I like
I
it.
think we got like
I like
a
it. No field goals for the Texans.
no
Um,
straight touchdowns.
I'll go 31-23 Texans. Damn, that's kind of like
Yeah,
a big score difference, but I'm gonna do that 31-23 Texans.
31-23. We'll see. This kind of feels like the Bengals from 2 years ago when they made the Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of feels like that. So that's very very interesting. I'm very excited for that. Next game Saturday night, Green Bay, San Francisco. Another interesting matchup. It's the same type of thing. Young quarterback, young team going against the one seed after a surprise performance against a really good defense. One was on the road, one was at home, one's a 7 seed, one's a 4 seed. But Green Bay at San Francisco, I think this has potential to be a much closer game than people think, but I think San Francisco is still probably going to win. But we'll see. Because I think San
Yeah, I
Francisco
think
has the best team overall. Regardless, even though the Ravens beat them pretty handily, I still think San Francisco has a better team overall.
I do too. And I can't really trust the Packers defense considering their body of work. I know like they finished out the year strong, allowing 10 points to the Vikings, 9 to the Bears, and then obviously the Cowboys game, they were phenomenal. Even like 32 points by the Cowboys, but really yeah, they played a lot better than that. But Joe Barry this season, their defensive coordinator, just has not been good. Allowed 30 to the Panthers just like a month ago. Um, so I think like Shanahan and the Niners offense is going to be able to kind of do like whatever they want, I guess, against the Packers defense. Um, Jordan Love is going to make it tough. But yeah, it's tough not picking the Niners, um,
Yeah,
considering,
it is tough.
both sides of the ball and the veteran leadership that the Niners have, compared to the Packers. So yeah, I'll go Niners. I'm gonna say that they put up, I'm gonna go no field goals, 28-21.
I'm gonna say the defense has a surprisingly good game for Green Bay, but it's not gonna be enough because San Francisco's defense steps up. And I'm gonna say 21-17.
That'd be a
21-17.
fun game.
San Francisco. It'd be a fun game. And normally, whenever these two teams play, it's fun. Like San Francisco, Green Bay always has some sort of fireworks, especially in the playoffs as well. So, um, we'll see what happens. I'm excited for this one. Only guy who's listed as out for the Niners is Cleveland Farrell. Everyone else is going to be there. Drake Greenlaw's questionable, but he'll probably play. Eric Armstead's missed a few games this season. He's going to play. Huge. George Kittle's going to play. McCaffrey had his calf thing, but he's fine now. So they're going to have their guys. Trent Williams, same thing. He had his issues towards the end of the regular season, but he's going to be good. So yeah, I think San Francisco winning. We're agreeing on that. Tampa Detroit. This is another intriguing matchup. I'm excited to watch this game. This is like the wild card game because this could be a blowout for Detroit, But if Tampa shows up, Tampa's offense shows up, this is going to be a very, very close game. It's going to be a very high scoring game as well. So, what do you think?
Yeah, and Tampa's defense has been playing a lot better recently too. I mean, obviously they have a lot of the guys that won the Super Bowl still out there. And then that guy Diaby, the rookie, he's really made a big impact coming off the edge for the
Yeah.
Bucks. The Lions are tough to pick against though. Jahmyr Gibbs is such a stud. Like you just give him the ball, and I feel like he can just make anybody miss.
Yeah.
St. Brown's just always open, and then man, I mean at Detroit in the dome, comfortable conditions for Jared Goff. Um, yeah, I think the Lions win. I mean, I just can't see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game. That's just,
It's hard. It's hard to
yeah,
see it.
I know.
Definitely hard to see it.
So I'll go Lions. I'll go
Lions.
20.
All right. Score prediction?
Yeah, I'll go man, 26 to 18.
26 to 18. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I'm with you. Um I think Detroit probably takes this one. It's just interesting because Tampa can't run it. Like it's not that they like to
Oh
they
yeah, they
can't run it.
can't.
They are
I
bad
know.
at running the football. Their leading rusher, Rashad White, averaged 3.6 yards per carry
Yeah,
this season.
dude. That,
3.6. Like they are straight up bad at running the football. So they're going to throw it. That goes towards Detroit's defensive weakness. They're not great over the air. So we'll see what happens because if Detroit's defense shows up and plays how they did at the beginning of the season and how they have been towards the end of the year, I think they'll be okay. But if they get into that mode they were in the middle of the season where they're really flailing around, it's gonna be really hard to guard this Tampa offense, especially if I mean Mike Evans, he had 3 catches for 48 yards. They put up 30 points, 32 points plus a safety, or 30 points plus a safety. Mike Evans had 48 yards. Cade Otton was their leading receiver. He had 89 yards. Like the offense can be balanced like that, but you put up Chris Godwin, Mike Evans against their secondary, and I think some bad things can happen. But I'm still gonna go with Detroit. I think this is a legit team, so I'm gonna go with them. I think it's gonna be. I think they're gonna win. 27-16. 27-16. I'll say that.
27-16. All right.
Yeah. All right. Last game of divisional weekend. It's the game that I'm going to be most locked into. I'll say that because I need to see Kansas City lose. I have to.
Yeah.
Buffalo, Kansas City at Buffalo. It's the game we've been waiting for. It's the trilogy of this. We have wanted a rematch since that divisional round game 2 years ago. This Buffalo team is playing better than Kansas City has, but Kansas City looked good against like the offense looked a lot smoother. It looked a lot cleaner. They looked more confident nor than they normally do against Miami, and that scares me. Like because
Mhm.
you get this offense rolling, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's like this guy. He's a top 10 quarterback of all time, and that's being generous because he's when he ends his career, he's going to be top three probably. He like his stats when you look, he's a 31 to 3 touchdown to interception ratio in his career in the playoffs. 31 to 3. That is ridiculous. That
Both
is
of these dudes,
insane.
both of these dudes are crazy because I think Josh Allen's like 27-4 or
His
20
is also ridiculous.
20 20 and 23-4, I guess. That's if you include rushing. They're
But
both
still, like total
they're both
ridiculous.
outstanding playoff quarterbacks. Like that run that Allen had where they did end up losing to Kansas City um in 2022. He had 9 touchdowns in 2 games, 5 against the Patriots, 0 interceptions, 4 against the Chiefs, 0 interceptions. Um, they're oh my God, they're just so good. So I think the teams this year are not as good as the teams in 2022. But Kansas City's defense obviously is just a monster. It's just like, of course, the one season where they don't have a good offense, their defense is just phenomenal. Like, of course.
Yeah.
Um, Man, I'm gonna say that I think like the Kansas City defense is gonna um be able to kind of slow down the Bills offense that has no Gabe Davis out there, who is
Yeah,
obviously the
that's a big. I
Chiefs
mean, they're not gonna
killer
have Gabe Davis, and the defense also isn't gonna have
for a
some good
couple
tackles. Taylor
linebackers.
Rapp,
Yeah.
yeah, Taylor Rapp is injured, and a couple of their linebackers are gonna be out. Here, let's see. I know the
Benford dude and
yeah, Benford's gonna be out, and then another one of their uh corners, I believe, is questionable. If I can find a tweet. Oh my God, hold on. We gotta go so far down. I don't remember if it was Rappaport or if it was Schefter who tweeted it, but he tweeted out not going to be
oh,
a clean, not going to be a clean injury report at all
oh
for Buffalo.
Benford.
Benford.
Wait, is that who I
Uh,
said? I don't know.
I think I don't.
They have a
Okay,
Benford and they have a Bernard.
I
Benford
think
is
okay,
out.
both of
Bernard
those
is
guys,
questionable. Yeah.
Benford or Bernard, they both of them might not play, which is huge, and that worries me for this Kansas City offense. I know they don't have a reliable outside threat. However, it's
Even
still Patrick Mahomes. Like you mentioned.
even Teron Johnson and Rasul Douglas are questionable, but maybe they're just, gonna play, but they just say that they're questionable.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Rasul Douglas might have been healthy. I don't even know if he played last game, but
Damn.
Darren Johnson, that's a big loss if he's not ready to go. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I'm gonna say it's so hard. It's impossible to bet against Patrick Mahomes. He's in that tier of
Uh,
quarterbacks and in that tier of player in sports where it's like you're betting against him. You're almost betting like against a certainty that he's gonna win, which is ridiculous. But it is his first road game. This Buffalo team has beaten Kansas City before this season. Buffalo team is on a roll, the hottest team in football currently. So I'm gonna go with them, but I'm not very confident in it. I'm not confident at all. So I'm gonna say Buffalo 24, Kansas City 21. It's gonna be such a close game. Like you're gonna be on the edge of your seat the entire time,
yeah, I'm trying to
starting
think of
from
like I don't think there's really one area where Buffalo like has an advantage over Kansas City. Like I feel like Kansas City's O line is better than their D line, and then um, with the injuries that Buffalo has and Patrick Mahomes, just like obviously the pass
yeah,
defense is going to be tough. Um, and then on the other side of the ball, like whole Kansas City defense is good. Like their Kansas City's D line is probably better than Buffalo's O line, both stopping the run and pass rushing. And then no receivers. Maybe Khalil Shakir just has some like breakout playoff thing
yeah,
and has a good game again this week. Stephon Diggs, it seems like he's just not like what he used to be. Um, in that like upper echelon of receivers. And he didn't even play practice yesterday. Um, So I mean, there's a lot of injuries. It just feels like it's Josh Allen against the Kansas City defense, and it's just going to be
yeah.
up to him. But that defense, I think, this year um, is too good. Obviously, both teams played in the cold, so that's not an issue for either team. I'm gonna say Kansas City goes in there. Patrick Mahomes just adds to his legacy. It doesn't matter where he plays; he's just gonna win. Um, and so, yeah, I'm gonna say Chiefs. I think it'll be way low scoring than the previous playoff matchups, 23-20 Chiefs.
I mean, I probably agree with you more than my own prediction, but I
Harrison
like I
Harrison
want to
Butker
choose Buffalo.
is gonna win it, I think, at the end.
My heart is telling me Buffalo. My brain is telling me Kansas City. It's just like I feel like this might be like one of those Patriot runs where they make it to the conference championship and they lose because it's not that good, but they win a couple of games because it's Tom Brady and because it's Patrick Mahomes, they're probably going to win a couple of games in a playoff run, and it's just going to cement his legacy. But if they beat Buffalo in Buffalo, they're going to the Super Bowl. Like they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. That's I'm calling that right. If they win, they're going to make the Super Bowl. I don't know if they'll win because they're going to have to play San Francisco probably. But man, whoa, that's tough. This is a tough game to choose, and I can't imagine being a fan of either of these teams right now because I would there'd just be a pit in my stomach anytime I would think about what's going to happen on Sunday night. So we'll see. All right, Asher's got Kansas City winning. I got Buffalo.
I like it.
That's the only one we disagreed on, I believe. We
Yeah,
both picked Houston. We both picked Houston. Yeah, Houston advancing. Got Niners advancing. We got Detroit advancing, and Asher's got Kansas City. I got Buffalo. That's gonna do it for divisional weekend. This is gonna be a fun. This is gonna be a fun one. I'm hoping it's good because I thought wildcard weekend was gonna be really solid, but it turned out to be a dud. So hopefully divisional round
yeah.
comes back and punches hard. I'm
Come
excited.
on, script writers. This is really just like it really is a TV show. They just have like these different seasons, and then the end of the season, we're coming up on the finale. Hopefully, these episodes are good.
Hopefully, I'm really excited about it. So that'll be all I got. I don't know what else we got going on, but
Yeah, I mean, like there's NBA trade deadline stuff. Um, like DeJounte Murray, it looks like he'll be traded somewhere. Who really cares?
yeah,
I don't know. I
we'll
mean, if
see.
he goes to the
We'll figure it
Bucks,
out.
that's meaningful, but like if he goes to the Lakers, who
Yeah,
cares? So, um, Pascal Siakam got traded. I don't know if is there any other like kind of good players like that.
like
Um,
all the market. I mean, Levine, I guess, but
yeah.
Chicago's winning lately, so I don't know if they'll let him go. Um, yeah, Dejounte Murray.
I mean, Murray on the Bucks, I guess would be, but I don't know. His defense has fallen off a lot, like
It has,
since his
it
first
has.
couple of
Maybe
years.
maybe in
But
a role where he doesn't have to do so much offensively. His defense is
yeah,
pretty bad.
exactly. That's what I'm thinking. It can kind of like help Dame on the perimeter defensively. Because that is what
Yeah.
they need. Because every single Bucks game I see, they allow like 140 points. It's crazy.
No, their defense is really bad. But yeah, I think yeah, Bucks would be interesting. I didn't even think I was thinking DeJounte might go to New York, if anything, like the Knicks. I think they're another reliable scorer away. And Brunson has been able to play well with other guards in the backcourt. I don't this Trey Young, DeJounte Murray, like Trey Young needs the ball so much to be effective. Brunson doesn't need the ball to be that effective. He's a very good off ball player. Him and Luca meshed really well in Dallas, so he has experience doing that. I think that would be a good fit. But Bucks
Yeah,
would
that would,
also be a good one. I just don't know what they trade for him. They gave up so much for Dame. I don't know if Atlanta would trade that to to Milwaukee. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I don't think there's any other guy out like a lot of it's just like other role players like Caruso. Obviously, is really sought after. Joe like Malcolm Brogdon in Portland. People are probably trying to go get him. Terry Rozier with Charlotte,
Bruce,
Bogdanovich, and other
Bruce
guys.
Brown, I guess.
Bruce Brown. Yeah, I think it's just more of like role players who people are looking after. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Definitely when the trade deadline gets closer, we'll talk more
Yeah,
about it.
when
But
is it?
right now, like it doesn't. When is it?
Yeah, it's usually like
Um,
February. I feel like 16th or something. I don't know.
it's normally like right before All Star break. So I assume like second week of
Oh,
February,
the 8th.
maybe like eighth or
The
something.
8th. I mean,
Yeah,
it's coming up.
coming up. It's gonna start ramping up. I mean, no one, like people probably anticipated Kyrie getting traded. No one anticipated KD going last year. That wasn't even a thought in my
Oh
brain
yeah.
that Kevin Durant was gonna get traded. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. I don't think there's any other stars like that who are gonna go. Like this, I don't think there's no star in like a disgruntled situation right now. I
Right.
think.
Other than like if you
Levine's probably
consider
the biggest name.
Levine, right?
Mm. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm very interested to see it. Very interested to see the Nuggets. They got a big game coming up tonight against Boston. They have a huge road trip. This road trip is actually insane for the Nuggets. Like it's like legitimately terrifying. Here, I'll list it off real quick and then we'll probably end it there. But they got where is it? Let's go to the full schedule. Their next games. So they already had the game against Philly. That was the start of the road trip. tonight in Boston. Boston's 20-0 at home, which is terrifying, and Denver sucks in Boston. Then at Washington on Sunday, at Indiana on Tuesday, and that's probably with Siakam and Halliburton. I think he's going to be back from injury at that point. And then you end it at New York. But it's not like when you get home, your schedule gets any easier because on Saturday you play against the Sixers again, and then Monday, 29th, is against Milwaukee, and then to end off January, you play at Oklahoma City. So I don't know where the idea that Denver's schedule is getting crazy easy
Where are
at
they?
the
Like
end of the
where
year was coming from because
where
I
are the
don't see a
Blazers,
single
man?
stretch in this schedule where it's like, oh yeah, that's easy because they're playing playoff teams almost every single night going forward.
I mean,
So
like I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm still looking at Minnesota's schedule, and it still looks like they have the easiest schedule like in the league. I mean, these guys like Hornets, Wizards, Nets, Spurs, they all play in the next week. And then
I agree.
Mavericks at home, Magic at home, Rockets at home. Dude, when does it like pick up for I don't see rarely any back-to-backs for the Timberwolves. I don't know, dude. When do we play the Blazers? Like, can we just play the Blazers?
They do play the Blazers at the end of the stretch. They play them twice in a row at
Finally.
home on February 2nd and February 4th after those Oklahoma City games. But then they go on a 3 game road trip right after at LA, at Sacramento, at Milwaukee, and then at home against Sacramento, and then at home against Washington, at Portland, at Golden State, home against Sacramento, home against Miami, at LA. Oh my God, this stretch right here is also insane. Sacramento, Miami, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Boston. When does schedule get easy? I've been told that the Nuggets have the easiest strength of schedule like since the middle of
Yeah.
December, and it is so wrong. It's so wrong. I don't know. I don't get
At
it.
least we played the Blazers 3 times in February.
I just
Damn.
remember. I just remember. Like 1819 to 1920, like those 2 seasons. Denver played Portland so often because they would
Yeah,
play them
that's
in preseason once, and then
yeah.
they played them 4 times in division, then they play them 7 times in the playoffs, and the next year they played them preseason again, and then 4 times in regular season.
Yeah. I'm like so
Ridiculous.
not used to like not playing Portland and going into
Yeah,
their red court that I just hate. It seems so like I don't know, it seems so dark in their arena and just
it does seem really dark in there. It does. I don't know what the lighting is in there, but it's
yeah.
always super super dark. But we'll see. We'll figure it out. This is narrative season for Denver. They have another stretch of narrative season coming up uh later. I believe it's part of that stretch. They have a stretch of a ton of uh these at Miami, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Boston. That stretch, all national TV right there. So we'll see. We'll see those stretch. This stretch right here that it was TNT, then ESPN, then that next game is Philadelphia's ABC. So this is narrative season for
I
Denver. This
wanna
is where
I
they
wanna
make their mark.
I wanna ask you one question before we end it. At this point last season, Nuggets had the 1 seed by a lot. Like they're just gonna finish with the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Basically, we knew that. Do you feel more confident that they're going to win a championship at this time last year, like, with that team compared to right now?
Uh, yeah, I did. I felt more
I
confident
probably
last year.
did too, which is weird because like
Yeah.
they won it, and so like I feel like now I should also be confident that they're just gonna win it again. But
It's more
something
of
just
that like
seems off.
it something seems off. The championship hangover has definitely affected them. Like they're not getting up for any games. Like they're playing the exact same way every game. Like last season, there would be games where you could tell that there was a noticeable
Yeah,
difference in their effort.
like I
And like
haven't
that
like
was it was like
felt
that at
it.
the beginning of the season. Like they were coming
Yeah,
off of a championship. They're really amped. That first game against the Lakers, I think that's the hardest they've played in a game this season. Like they were getting after it. Everyone was amped up for it. But really, since that beginning stretch of the year, they haven't had a ton of games where you're like, I can really tell they want to win this. Like they're
yeah,
trying really
yeah.
hard to win this because they've had letdown, like that Orlando game right after the Golden State game winner game, that Orlando game. That should have been an easy victory. Easy victory. That should have been. This Philadelphia game, it didn't seem like they took any
Right.
pride on the defensive end. They weren't really trying.
But I
Against
mean, like that happened
both
last year
Oklahoma City
too, though.
losses.
So it's like,
But it happened less. frequently, I would say.
Yeah.
Like it happened at the beginning of the season, but they had that stretch from like December to the middle of March where I didn't think they were gonna lose in any game at that point.
I
And
guess
now
like
looking at these games, I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
for me, it's like I'm trying to like last year you could just feel it. Like it was just a weird like just feeling. But I remember just talking like with you and just like we were like, okay, I feel like this team's like different than the years past and like we can actually feel like this team's gonna win a championship.
Yeah.
I haven't had that feeling yet and I'm waiting for it. But like maybe last year is just easier to identify the problem, which was Bones. And like I just knew that like when they traded him, we're like, okay, like I think that solves it. But like I remember saying, like, I just want to get rid like I don't even need anything back, just get rid of him, and I think we'll be a better team. Um like now it's just like I don't know what the problem is because it feels like it should be better. Like Reggie's better than Bones as the main scorer off the bench, and then
Hmm.
but I don't know. I don't know. Jokic
I
doesn't
think
seem
it's
good
it's
this year. And
yeah,
then,
he just he's not taking like I said, he's not taking the game like that seriously right now. Like there that
yeah,
Detroit game really showed. I mean, he didn't look at the rim. Like he legitimately did not look at the basket for
yeah.
except the three shots that he took. He didn't look at the rim. He never was trying to put any pressure. Oh my god, excuse me, and scoring the ball. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like he doesn't care. Like which is fine. Like it's okay to not care because
I thought, yeah, I
it's the
also thought
regular season.
KCP was like better last year. Um, so far, I haven't seen like what happened to him drawing all these fouls on screens and stuff. I haven't seen that happen.
It's
Um,
happened a couple times. It's not as frequent though for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean I don't know. I don't know. It's gonna be
like
an interesting stretch because I think now they have to like lock in because I think at this point it's a given that Minnesota's legit. Like this isn't a team Minnesota's gonna fall off now because I thought this stretch they had coming up they're gonna slide a little bit and they haven't. They've kept pace with how good they've been. They're on a 60 win pace right now, which is it's ridiculous.
yeah.
They're not gonna get to 60 because they're going to slow down at some point. But 60 win pace is insane. Oklahoma City's legit. I don't think they're really gonna slow down. Denver has to speed up because right now I think they're just treading water and sleepwalking, which is crazy because they're sleepwalking and they're the 3 seed and they've had some really good performances, but they got to wake up. I'm expecting them to lose tonight, but
Yeah, I
they
know,
got
right?
to,
But maybe
yeah.
like I don't know, because sometimes they'll just like come out and like just these games where it's like, oh, you're expecting them to lose. Like sometimes they come out and literally just like blow them out.
Like they
Um,
have stretches in games where they're just like, wow, this isn't like the Golden
yeah,
State game. The entire fourth quarter, you were just like, oh, like okay, they can just do this. And like in both of the games against Charlotte, like they literally would just like, okay, we're gonna try for like a 10-minute period, and then we're gonna blow them out of the water and we'll be fine. So
yeah.
like they have stretches where you know they can do it, and it's very obvious when they turn it on. Um,
Especially
they
defensively.
just haven't done it for a full game yet.
Like you can tell when they turn it on defensively. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the starting five unit this year has a better defensive rating than last year, I think.
Well,
Um,
the team as a whole currently has the exact same defensive rating as they did last season. Like they're both fit. They're 113.5 was the number they had last season. That's what they're at currently. But um, I think the starting lineup was definitely better because they were trying hard. Like they were trying hard. Like that's what it was. Like that's all it comes down to with Denver when they want to win. Are they trying? If they try, they win. Like that's literally the key. Like
yeah.
I think we'll see against Boston. I hope they try hard tonight
I'm kind of
because this
like,
is a
yeah, we'll see. Like with a whole Porzingis Jokic thing, if they put Jokic on Porzingis,
yeah.
considering all the pick and pop stuff that he does, and Jokic
Hmm.
not being good at guarding bigs that do that stuff, obviously with Embiid. And so I'm like, it's interesting. I'm very interested to see what they'll do for that because you're probably, if you do make the finals, it's probably going to be Boston or Philly. I think have been kind
Yeah.
of the two best teams in the East, even though I think the Bucks have a better record. I don't know. They feel weird and not very good to
Yeah.
me.
Their defense. It's their defense. Their defense is really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Um, so I mean, like, hopefully, because Jokic's defense or the game plan that they had for him against Philly was
Oh,
just so
awful.
bad.
It was
Uh,
awful. Yeah.
but that's like happened 2 years in a row now. So it's like I don't know, you would think that they could adjust, that they would have adjusted for this game